Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sasquatch Outpost podcast. We are episode 84, and we are live. My name is Jim Myers, your host.
And I'm your co-host, Sibylla Irwin.
Happy and we are here. Yes, we're glad to be here and glad to see all of you in our chat room. And I often forget to acknowledge you guys, which I apologize for, because you're a big part of this podcast, is having you in the chat room and interacting with us. And who knows, one of these days, maybe we will get a, option to call in or something, and you guys can actually ask your questions in person. Wouldn't that be cool? Just like a real show. So, but we're very excited about tonight and our guest for tonight. And a couple of things before we jump in there. We're going to be moving, and this is going to happen sometime in the next, next few weeks, probably, in what I'm going to call season 3 of this podcast. We're going to move to kind of a new format and theme, and you'll know more about that before we get there. But just to give you guys a heads up that things will be changing somewhat, and I'm excited about the change. I think, Sibylla, you seem to be excited about the change too. So absolutely. I think it'll be great. So Sibylla, this weekend is my 62nd birthday, and it's my golden birthday. You know what that means?
It's the same year as you were born.
That's it. So
ding, ding, ding.
Born in 62, and I will be 62. So there's got to be some special prize or something for living to the year, the same age as the year you're born. I don't know. That's me, but I'm grateful to be alive and grateful to be celebrating it, and grateful to be a new granddad and be around for that. And so I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm grateful to have Sibylla as my co-host and Stephanie as our technician and our moderator. So, and I am grateful for the guest we have tonight. And so let me do a quick talk about some of the things about our guest, and then we will do our quick disclaimer and bring him in. But Sibylla and I are both excited. Dave Ellis is our guest tonight. Dave is a Washington native, born and raised in Washington State. He is married, has children, lives in and retired, and lives in the Puget Sound area of Washington. He's been involved in one way or another in the Bigfoot phenomenon since 1963. So he and I are obviously not the same age, because I was 1 year old in 1963. As much as I might have been interested in Bigfoot at 1 year old, I was not yet. But he actually kind of took his interest to the field in 2006 and actually joined with the Olympic Project and Derek Randall's in 2010. Olympic Project, for those who don't know, has been around a long time. It's a very well-respected research project in the Bigfoot world, as is Derek Randall's, is very well respected. So I think the fact that David is part of the Olympic Project gives him extra credibility, in my perspective anyway. But I'm excited that he's going to be with us, and his specialty. I've called David a guru in the area of audio recordings.
Yeah.
And I really believe that's the case, because a lot of us, myself included, I'm kind of a Bigfoot jack of all trades. I am not a specialist necessarily in one area, but David has really specialized in the audio recording aspect. And we're going to get to hear some of that tonight, which I'm really excited about. And he's collected hundreds of what he would call suspicious audio vocalization clips. We're not going to listen to hundreds tonight, but we're going to listen to some good ones. So without further ado, we're going to play our quick disclaimer, and we're going to bring David into the podcast.
Awesome.
David, we are thrilled to have you tonight.
Good evening, Sibylla. Jim,
Good
thanks
evening,
for having me
David.
on the show.
You are
Thank
you're very welcome. This Sibylla was the one that put me in touch with you, just so you know. I asked Sibylla, who do you know who has the most experience in dealing with audio format? It could help me with finding the right kind of audio recorders. And she said, David Ellis. So no hesitation, right, Sibylla?
No, absolutely. It's been
Well, there
huge
was a
help.
lot of trial and error, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
always is.
anything that we become proficient in, right, is a lot of trial
Exactly. Yeah, I had a lot of help coming up through the ranks. I don't know if you've heard of John Andrews before, but he was a gentleman that captured some really good audio, and I grilled him on how he did it. And then a group that I was working with when I was with the BFRO, a lot of people were using bionic dishes, so I grilled them on how they were going about doing their business, and really wanted to capture evidence if I could. I had been going out into the field and just observing and coming back with a ton of stories. And I got to a point where, I really want to record something. That way I can discuss it with somebody about what I heard or what I thought I heard. So,
and it's critically important, I think, that we have the right kind of equipment to capture these audios and to get the best recording we can get. And I was telling you before the show, David, how frustrated I have been by having audio equipment that would record for an hour or 2 hours a night and then quit. And I'm like, what do I have to do to get at a recording,
Yeah, that's kind of threading the needle tight with a couple of hours of recording a night. It would take me all night, maybe 4 nights in a row before I got maybe 2 or 3 clips that were maybe there's something there. So It's like fishing. There's a lot of putting the line in the water, but not a lot of fish striking. So
That's true.
And so I appreciated the insights you gave me on audio equipment, which I have already purchased some equipment based on those recommendations. And, I think that's how we can help each other in the Bigfoot world as researchers
Sure.
is sharing of information, experience, know-how.
Right.
Yeah, I went.
And then,
Go ahead, Sibylla.
and then sometimes you get a great recording, or you think you've recorded some stuff, and then there's the whole after you've gotten a recording. What do you do with it?
What do you do with it?
How
Yeah.
do you find it? Like sometimes it's, I would record 12 hours, 16 hours, and then, so now,
And then
yeah, like what do you, you either going to
Then-
sit there and listen to 16
Yeah.
hours of it, or,
Well,
you learn how to use
I went that route. I went that route. I listened, you record 24 hours and then there's 24 hours of listening. And then when, eventually you're going to find something. And then so you go over that and over that. So it takes longer to review than to record.
Yes.
But that was until I found how to really analyze audio, and that's visually.
Yes.
Not by listening, but by visual cues. Now I do listen and I do look. So so by looking, what I mean is I use a software that turns the audio into a spectrogram, which is a different way of looking at it than waveform. Most people think of spikes, up and down vertical spikes when looking at audio, and the larger the spike, the larger the sound, and that's what you're looking for. But that's not the case at all.
Right.
When you're looking at audio in a spectrogram, it's kind of like looking at a fingerprint. There's way more detail and way more information to be gleaned, and it's learning those cues that have catapulted me into understanding sounds much better than just by listening. When people say, "Oh, I know what you recorded there. That's a wolf."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the signature doesn't match a wolf. So, and the critics would say, "What do you mean the signature doesn't match a wolf?" I know what a wolf sounds like. Well, maybe you do, and maybe you don't. And that's what the spectrogram is going to show you, a detail that your ears cannot. Your ears are easily fallible.
Yeah. David, would you ever consider teaching a class? Or have you taught classes?
Just what I asked him before the show. Same.
Was it?
Great minds think alike.
Because I would love to. I would enroll myself in that class, and I'd pay for it. A class that showed me. Are you using? Somebody asked, "Are you using Audacity, or are you using something else now?"
I could use Audacity, but I was trained on something else. And so it's like anything, you go to it, the easiest thing to learn. I would recommend people learn Audacity because that is probably something, it's a software that people are familiar with.
Right.
I cut my teeth on a sonic visualizer. It's freeware out of the UK. And
I've used it, David, and I found it very easy to use. Sonic Visualizer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's lots of tricks to the trade, and to Sibylla's question about teaching, there's a lot to learn. I was just like you, Jim. Somebody said, "Hey, you should use Sonic Visualizer," and so I self-taught. And there was a lot of hours learning and finding things out. So I can help people with tips on this and that. I have done presentations at the Olympic Project cabin where we have people come in, and I talked about it before, but it's a lot of hard work, and a lot of people
Yeah.
are interested until they find out how much work it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because you actually have to get out there and put the recorders out. And
Well, there's that part of it, but there is the actual analysis part that is a lot of learning. It's thousands upon thousands of hours of watching audio to learn the cues that you look for.
But one thing I appreciated about Sonic Visualizer is I could quickly go through, and in long sections where there was just a flat line, I could just skim past all of that till I saw a blip and then stop and check it.
There you go.
But I'm sure I could learn a lot about analyzing the blip itself too.
Right. Yeah. That's what saved my bacon, was getting that at the right time, because I was falling asleep listening to audio, reviewing it. And so when I learned that I could get through a 30-minute clip in about 5 minutes if nothing happened, that really saved me a lot of time.
Yeah,
absolutely. And time is valuable. I mean, I don't think any of us necessarily just love listening to hours of
No, we don't.
It's the crickets. It's the crickets. No, the crickets.
Yeah, for the crickets,
but
our woods, we don't even have crickets. It's just so
right.
We have zero sounds in we have no night bugs, no night birds. We have nothing. It's just quiet. So it's long periods of just nothing that you're listening for. And then waiting for that
there's
clank or that bonk or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's one more step that I learned that really catapulted me into even a deeper direction, and that is actual editing. Learning how to edit out the crickets, learning how to minimize background noise, and learning how to pull the sound that we want to hear forward. I was turned on to some professional audio editing software that allows me to edit in a spectrogram. So I am actually seeing the sounds that I want to enhance and making sure that those don't get stepped on or deteriorate, so that I can get the full sound out of it. And
just a quick heads up before we get into some of these sounds. If sometimes on the podcast, for those who are watching visually, those listening, it wouldn't make a difference, but I will take Sibylla and I off the screen to just have your image. If you're talking about a particular vocalization, and I do that because it makes it easier going forward if we want to do a quick short video of you talking about that sound, to do it with that. So it's not you haven't lost us. It's
okay.
Just putting us in the background, putting you in the foreground, and then we'll come back in. Yeah. So but somebody just asked the question earlier. I don't know if that's something you want to try to answer. What's a good recorder for a beginner?
Oh gosh. Well, I used Olympus at the beginning. Just a Radio Shack $50 digital tape recorder. Just like I said in the beginning, but then I graduated. I wanted to get a higher quality recorder. And that's when I standardized back in about 2008, 2009 on the Edirol R09 series, HR to be exact. And it fit everything that I needed. Now there's lots of other good recorders out there, but I didn't go through a lot. So I am not the person to ask, is the Zoom as good as the Edirol or so I can't speak. I can't speak to others. I can only tell you that the Roland Edirol series that I use has studio quality microphones on it and can pick up a good recording, field recording.
And someone mentioned a Tascam. That's the one I used to use, but I had trouble getting the Tascam to record long periods as well.
Yeah.
But there was another question here from Foot Clan about what about sound activated recorders?
Oh, well, I suppose they're good. I just went by the theory that if my recorder is going, it's going to capture something. So I turned it on when I got there and turned it off when I left, or to change batteries. Otherwise, my recorder was going all the time.
And how many
now
times
that is okay. Go ahead, Sibylla.
And how many times have we missed a really great vocalization because, I mean, we're getting out of our cars and there's either like some great vocalization happens right then. So it's a good idea to start your recorder before you even get out of your vehicle, because sometimes
some of the best vocalizations happen when the recorder wasn't running, and I can't count the number of times I'm embarrassed to say and call myself a Bigfoot researcher.
I know, it happens all the time.
And that's a good point here, that many calls are so distant that you can hear it, but the recorder wouldn't pick it up necessarily.
Yeah.
Now,
a noise activated one, that to say.
Right, correct. Interesting. I have the capability of taking a weak signal and making it stronger through the software spectral layers, or the edit software that I talked about. So that's why I don't enhance the audio by using a bionic dish in the field. I do my editing after I find it in the recording.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I don't need a bionic dish anymore. I just turn on the recorder, place it in an area that I suspect that it might capture something, and then come back and pick it up. I do put it in a baggie, just to keep the moisture off of it. Even
with a
even
mic
if it's not going
out of the baggie, or what?
No, the sound will be picked up through the baggie. Not a problem, not an issue.
I would never have thought of that.
Yeah.
Having
it
never
keeps the
been
moisture
in a
off
baggie,
of it.
I can't imagine what you can hear inside. But but I've always thought, I've never done it that way, because I thought surely this sealed baggie is going to hinder sound, but it doesn't. Huh?
No.
Wow, good to know that for sure.
So I saw a question: where's the best place to put a recorder? I guess it depends where you think they might be coming through. It's knowing the area, so that.
Yes.
I mean, if I usually work with people that have history in an area, and so we kind of know where the things were possibly coming through, and that's where I would have the recorder. So it's you kind of got to know the area. And how do you know the area? Well, you spend time in it, so you'll learn from those experiences. You'll learn, does something come into camp, or do they leave you alone?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
Knowing the area and knowing the way the Sasquatch in your area tend to behave, like you said, do they always come in and mess with the tents, or do they stay in the background and you may hear things outside the camp a little bit?
So I saw a question from Steve: does the baggie eliminate hiss? I don't think so. I haven't noticed it affect it at all. So that's what I did like about using it, because it protects the recorder from moisture.
Right.
Yeah. Does the baggie limit hiss? I don't think so, Steve. Not that I'm aware of. And if there is a lot of hiss, like I said, I know how to eliminate that.
Yeah, that would be valuable. Like Sibylla said, to have you teach a group of people or online course or something about how
Yeah,
to do this kind of
the
thing.
more people out there,
Go ahead.
more people out there that are recording and analyzing and doing those sorts of things are going to push it forward.
Yes.
There are people that that I worked with. Well, for instance, Chris Spencer, he's almost light years ahead of where I am now because he took the ball and ran with it and taught himself how to do things. And
Who is
he
that?
uses Chris Spencer. He's with
Chris
the Olympic
Spencer.
Project.
Okay.
Yeah, you should have him on the show. He's got a ton of experiences too. That
Yeah, I
would
would
be
love to
good for
take
people to hear.
I would love to take a class. And I have a whole bunch of audio from, the Kentucky area that I've never gone through. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you there's a lot there.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure there probably
I know
is.
what you're
lot
talking
there.
about. Where yeah.
And someone asked, that was a really good question too. Do you hide or camouflage a recorder? My experience is, at least in Crittenden, they didn't seem to care that I was recording
No.
with audio.
Yeah,
They
no,
didn't seem to
there's
mind
even a
audio.
red light on the recorder. Yeah, there's a red light that shows that the recorder is running. Didn't seem to bother. And a lot of times they're not coming close to the recorder. They're further away when they make their vocalization. Maybe could be half a mile away from the recorder.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do come in, and we've had audio of them fooling around with the recorder, picking it up, sniffing it, and putting it back down.
And they you can leave a recorder out. I've done this. I've left a recorder out in plain sight, red lights blinking, and I've left the camera, tiny camera out. And I come back in the morning and they took the camera and they didn't even bother the audio recorder. And they were just yards apart,
Yeah.
which
They don't
told
care.
me they don't care about the audio recorder. So how do they know the difference? Your guess is as good as mine, but they do. They really seem to know the difference.
Yeah.
So Tristan, no, I haven't had anything damage the recorder, and now that I've said that, I'll probably lose two. So I think it's probably just one of those lucky things, because there's raccoons and other opossum and other critters too that can get into it, gnaw on the plastic.
Yeah.
So it can happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, David, you sent us a bunch of clips. I'd love to go through these and have you explain them to us.
Okay.
I just saw what's this down here that says testing? I'm not sure what that is, Steph, but that was you messing around. Okay. Never mind. Okay. So we'll have Steph play these one at a time. She's got them numbered, and if you want to set them up ahead, please do, David.
Do you want me to set it up?
Yeah, because she's got them all numbered one through.
Cut number 1 is my.
Go ahead.
Oh. Okay. The first cut is my very first recording attempt. I had gone to this location the week prior, and there had been a wood knocking back and forth. It's like we were communicating with one another, and I thought, oh my word, I wish we could have recorded that. So the following week, to that same location, and I had a little bionic dish and a recorder. And when we stepped out of the car, we heard a wood knock. And so we knew it was game on if we could get them to respond again. And fortunately, we did. Now, I should say that I suspect we're dealing with the Bigfoot, but I don't know for sure. It sure seems like it because we're dealing with something that not only did wood knocks, but vocalized as well. And you will hear that in the recording. Research I was with will be hitting rocks, and they will make a clacking sound, a sharp clacking sound. And all other sounds that you hear, knocks and grunts and groans and vocalizations, so those are all the suspicious sounds that really intrigued me, and I got really jazzed. And it was probably because of the success of this adventure that really got me excited about audio recording in the field. So it's about a minute long, but in reality, it took about 2.5 minutes. So it's condensed. So it has been edited for length as well. The sound quality originally was poor, but I was able to edit it through the software that I told you about, Spectral Layers, and made it a little bit better than what the original recording sounded like. So if you want to play cut one, we'll have a listen.
It just answered. Try it again. Go ahead.
So were you guys knocking or clacking as well, or?
Yes, yeah, it was a back and forth scenario. The clacking was Christine. She was hitting rocks together, and then the percussive sounds that you heard were response to her doing the clacking. And
Nice.
there was a knocking response as well to her vocalization, her whoop. So what really jazzed me was the vocals. So it was the vocals and the wood knocks. It wasn't just wood knocking. There was other things going on.
Yeah, it sounds like a yelling in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. And so we'll just let you set up each cut ahead of time, and then we'll
Okay.
just play.
Okay. I received an email from a researcher that said that they had a witness that sent them these howls, and could I take a look at them? And I was pretty impressed with them. They were captured on a cell phone, which kind of gives me hope for people out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a recorder. You just have to know how to hit record on your cell phone. So this is a cell phone recording.
Okay. So, Sibylla, what does that remind you of, just listening to that?
The Colorado howl.
It sounds like the Colorado howl, and it sounds like the Ohio howl to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with both.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a similarity. There's there's an anomaly that Bob Densford, you're familiar with Bob, aren't you, Sibylla?
Yes, I am.
He's from, yeah, that he discovered regarding these howls, and it's called an attenuated fundamental, and it's very hard to explain, but the main fundamental, which is where the bulk of the sound resides in a sound in a Bigfoot vocalization or a human vocalization. It should be the lowest in hertz, resonance in hertz on a spectrogram. And there is an anomaly with suspicious vocalizers. The main fundamental appears to be missing, but what's actually happening is that in the oo-to-ah transition, the main vocal slides into the first harmonic, and which gives the appearance in a spectrogram that the main fundamental is missing. So how many people have I lost so far in this explanation?
So how would it differ
that
from
could
a
be
human?
an hour presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
A human
Yes.
yell versus
There
what
is
you
something-
think is Sasquatch.
And I have a perfect example of a human replicating one of these Ohio type howls, and the main fundamental is very prominent, very evident. And in the call made by the suspicious vocalizer, it is missing and it's gone. Now, here's another fun thing, another fun fact, is that the human mind fills that in. So we literally hear it. So when you ask a human to replicate that vocalization, the main fundamental is going to be present because that's what they hear. So it's very, very interesting. Humans don't seem to have that tendency to have their main fundamental slide into the first harmonic, but our suspicious vocalizer does. Yes, I know, believer. I'm sorry. It's difficult to explain. It's a visual which you're not seeing, unfortunately. I'm trying to verbalize a visual.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
But
is
just
you
know
can
that
visualize
in the Ohio,
the difference between a human and a non-human, potentially.
right? Yeah, there is a characteristic that separates the suspicious vocalizer from a human vocalizer, and we can leave it at that. That you'll just have to trust me that I could point it out to you if I had a visual cue.
Okay.
I believe you.
But I was impressed with the quality of those the last cut to on an iPhone recording.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind hearing that one again.
Yeah, why don't you play that
So
one more time, Steph?
Go ahead, Sibylla.
Let's do-
Yeah.
I would like
Yeah.
to hear it again. Yeah, that's really good.
Do cut 2 again. There you go.
Cut 2.
You know what strikes me in that, David, is the volume. I mean, you can
Right.
hear that. You can hear that thing echo, 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 echo. I mean, the volume is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. And what's interesting is that you pick up on that, because usually in a recording that is lost. People don't feel the depth of the vocalization. And that's usually one of the characteristics that people point out is that I don't know what vocalizes that loud.
No.
And
No.
most of the time that's lost in translation in a recording because the speakers don't produce the volume that you need to have to feel it.
Yeah. If we could, that would be a phenomenal thing in an audience to actually project that sound in a way that people could actually feel it like it originally was. Because,
Right.
you know, it's a sound that resonates into your chest is what I understand.
I agree with Tristan. He just said when you hear it in person, it's insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
And you know when you're hearing it, it's not anything like you've ever heard before. Like it's
Right.
not a human.
Right.
You know it's not.
Now imagine being 11 years old and 30 feet from it when it went off.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know you were 30 feet.
Yeah.
And it was a roar.
Yeah.
It was kind of a roar.
It was a roar. Yeah, it was the Ohio howl on steroids.
Wow. I'm amazed that didn't scare you so much you never wanted to go near anything like that again.
Well, I didn't have anything to compare it to other than an elephant trumpeting and a lion roaring at the same time.
Wow. Who were you with when that happened?
There was a group of neighborhood kids. The place that I heard it was called the Stumpfield. We kind of lived on the edge of country, and we had a 160-acre cow pasture that had that would previously been logged, and they left these stump edifices that were 12 feet tall at least. And it was just a fun place to go, hide and seek, play games, do things, find lizards, find snakes, do things that you did when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow. Yeah, that's phenomenal. That recording is phenomenal. So we'll set us up for cut 3.
Okay. Cut 3 was east of Mount Rainier. And it was in an area that we called Rattlesnake. And we were doing a night walk with a group of Bigfoot investigators. We came to a fork in the road, and one group went one way and another group went the other way. And we got a radio call about a half an hour later that they were going to do somebody was going to do a yell to see if we could get a response. And they did the yell, and I recorded this response.
So everything in this one is the response. This is not the person who made the yell.
Correct.
Okay.
It was looped. So there were 4 vocalizations that were recorded, and what we heard were 8.
Right.
So I looped it. I should have said something that this was a loop.
That is so haunting. That's really
Yeah.
haunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting that they respond to our vocals. I would assume, I could be wrong, but I would assume that they know that vocal came from a human, not from another Sasquatch. So have you ever wondered, David, whether implicit in their vocals, particularly these type of vocals that are yelling, if there's communication in that, what we would call words or
Well, there has to be some form of communication. Why make the sound if you're not trying to get something else's attention for whatever reason? What I personally am not a big fan of screaming to do or yelling to get a response. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So
that's
I
true.
don't know if that means I'm here, if I'm challenging you, you know, that kind of a scenario. I might be inviting something that I'm not looking forward to. So
Right.
I would do and I did do wood knocking. That seemed to be a more subtle way of communicating, less threatening, so to speak. So I'm always concerned in those kinds of things. I always recommend to people that if you're going to pick up rocks and clack it, just remember that if there's something that has a visual on you, it tells them that you're armed and dangerous. So rock clacking seemed to get more responses than wood knocking would, and I think I know why.
Explain that a little bit. What do you mean?
Well, like I said, I think that the throwing rocks is a form of aggression.
Okay.
And so when you clack rocks, it lets them know that you have 2 rocks.
Huh.
So, and my theory is that it's telling them that you're armed and dangerous. So just, be careful if you're going to clack rocks, make sure you have some form of escape plan.
Yeah. Yeah, that brings up a question in my mind, but I'll ask this question later. I want to hear more of the recordings. So,
Yeah, Steve has a good point there.
So we cut number 4.
What was Steve's point? I didn't see it.
Call blasting could potentially
or do
cause
we want
more problems.
to?
Yes. Or if we
Possibly,
mimic their language. It's like when Ron Moorhead
what are we saying?
recording. Yeah, when Ron was recording with I can't remember the guy's name. That Al Berry, and Ron was saying repeating back. He had no idea what he was saying to them. So, and there were times when the Sasquatch reacted very strongly to something that Ron repeated back, which made me think, oh, okay, maybe he shouldn't have said that, whatever he said.
Yeah.
Your mom's ugly.
Yeah, your mom's ugly, or whatever, if it was even if it was an aggressive, because initially, I think in the camp, in the first year or two, I think that clan of Sasquatch were far more aggressive than they were later on. I think they didn't know what these hunters were about.
They got to know them.
Yeah, they got to know them. Okay.
What's next?
What's next?
What's next?
Okay, so the cut number 4, the baboon bark, and I have a comparison to that. So you're familiar with the story of Daniel Boone, right? Shooting a Yahoo. You've heard that?
I don't know that everybody's
I was doing
heard
an
that,
information search on the internet. Okay, supposedly a long time ago in Appalachia, I don't know exactly where, it was rumored that Daniel Boone shot and killed a air quote Yahoo. That's what they evidently called them, or that's a slang term for Bigfoot in the Appalachian Mountains. It is also a term that was used in Gulliver's Travels, I believe, to describe large hairy apes. So we're not sure which chicken and the egg came first. Was it the Gulliver Travel stories talking about it? And did he get that information when he came to the Americas and were talking with the Native Americans, and they told him about this specific tribe of Native American in their mind? and he called them yahoos. Who knows? I was on the internet looking for information that maybe gave me a little more detail, and I popped a YouTube video called Wahoo, the Baboon Bark. And I went, wait a minute. I looked at Yahoo, Wahoo, Baboon Bark. Oh, I got to hear this. So what you'll hear in this recording is the baboon bark, and then you'll hear a recording of something that was recorded here in Washington State. It's very, very close to that baboon bark. We don't have baboons in the woods, so
yeah,
what's making that sound that's similar to that?
Okay.
So that's the point of this. Now, just further to add to it, there have been numerous baboon bark type vocalizations recorded all across North America. So this is something that I'm tracking, I'm following. So if we play cut 4, you'll hear first the baboon bark, and then you'll hear something else that was recorded here. It's looped 5 times. So you'll hear the baboon bark followed by the comparison, the baboon bark followed by the comparison. You'll hear it 5 times. I don't know if you can turn the volume up on that at all.
Yeah, she can. So we'll play it again.
I'd like to try that again, louder.
So both of these vocals we're hearing were suspicious vocals.
No, the first one you heard was an actual baboon doing the baboon bark.
Gotcha.
The second one you heard was something that was recorded here in Washington State.
Okay.
And I can tell you we don't have baboons.
No. So the first was just a generic baboon, recording.
Off the YouTube from a YouTube video of a baboon making that sound.
Okay. Interesting, because I grew up in Africa and I've heard countless baboons vocalizing, and that second one, which I assume was potentially a Sasquatch, was very baboon-like. Not what I would expect necessarily.
Yeah. The fun part about it is
to sound like.
Right. Exactly. If I didn't actually see the video of a baboon making that sound, I would probably question that myself. But when you see the baboon making the sound, it's hard to argue.
Yeah. So
have you had other recordings of them like barking or mimicking barking?
Yes. Well, that's always been my one thing that it just irritates me to no end, that it seems like every time you find a recording site to work with a witness, there's 1,000 dogs, and you don't there can't be that many dogs in that area. So then you think about it, and the next one that we're going to play will definitely tell you that they mimic.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so to set this one up, um, I was with my wife and another witness, and we were going to an area that we've had lots of activity before. So it was just a day outing. It was warm. It was hot. We had our dog at the time. Her name is Kaya with us. She was off leash, and I had a bionic dish, and I let the witness and my wife and dog go ahead of me so that I could kind of hear things around. And I picked up immediately that there was something that was tracking them. It was moving with them off to the side, and definitely knew that it was a bipedal, whatever it was that was following them was walking on two legs. And eventually I moved up to where they were and told them that there was something off to our left in the brush that's here with us now. And I was listening to see if I could hear more. And the dog Kyle was panting and kind of moving around. And Steve looked at me and he held the leash up and like, I can leash her up and take her away if you want. And I nodded yes. And then he called and he says, "Come here, Kaya." And then immediately you're going to hear the response. Something says very similarly, "Come here, Kaya," from the bush. If you want to play cut 5.
Come here, Kaya. Come here, Kaya. Come here, Kaya.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So if anybody questions, do they mimic? Or I suspect yes. That's my opinion.
Come here, Kaya.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. And did they hear the mimic at the time?
I heard it. They did not, because
Okay.
I had the bionic dish going, and that increases your ability to hear it by about 2.5 times. Yeah, no,
Okay.
they didn't hear it at all.
All
How
right.
did that make you feel?
Yeah, good question.
Like quitting, because if they can mimic, what since then I've got numerous recordings of something suspicious calling dogs by name. Numerous recordings. So this wasn't just a one shot deal.
Yeah.
I've heard the same
and
thing
he-
from Christopher Noel of him talking about hearing his children's voices in the woods when they were in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Calling you by name. I've had that happen. So
That would be
yeah,
freaky.
and it's not long sentences. It's short things. So it's short sound bursts that they seem to be able to do. Can they mimic an owl? I suppose.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that say, that was an 800-pound owl, and we all giggle because,
Yeah, exactly.
if it sounds like an owl, I default. If it sounds like an owl, it's an owl until I can prove differently.
Right. Right.
So Jeff asked,
yeah.
do I think or believe that they can project their voice like a ventriloquist? I suppose so. There are native stories where, they hear the bushes talking, and it's not bushes. I think Henry Franzoni had that happen to him, where there was a bush that was talking. So we all know that plants don't talk. So Can they throw their voice? I think, but I don't know.
Sure.
It's a good question.
There was another great question up there as well.
Which one were you thinking, Sibylla? I'm looking.
That one right there.
Okay. Okay. So let me just read it. Please forgive if this has been addressed.
I don't
David,
know about a recording or not. I can tell. I have cues that I can tell if it's a human mimicking or trying to sound like a Bigfoot. The way our voice print comes across is way different, and I know what those cues are. But can I tell if somebody's broadcasting a suspicious vocalization? I don't know. I don't think so. Unless I know what that vocalization, and if I have familiarity with the vocalization, yes,
Right.
I can tell the difference. But if I'm unfamiliar with the recording, I can't.
Yeah, like some people have tried to do that with the Ohio howl, but they didn't take out the dogs. And those of us who are familiar with the dogs that are in that, we know exactly where they are.
Exactly. I've seen that on YouTube where somebody was claiming to be hearing something in real time, and I'm thinking, nope, sorry, I know exactly where you got that recording, and that is total BS. Sorry. Because they didn't know enough to pull out some of the other sounds going on around it that we've learned to recognize. And but you're saying, David, that you can tell on a spectrogram a human sound versus a potential Sasquatch sound.
Voice signature,
correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. That's
right. I've got several cues. It's not just one.
Okay.
So if a human being does whoop, does a whoop call, and then the Sasquatch answers it, it's going to look very different on your spectrograph.
Not very different, but different.
Different okay.
Yeah. Not very different. Just they're like I said, there are some visual cues that I look for, and
that any 20-year-old could identify,
just
right?
The other way too. I can tell when people say, "You think that's a Sasquatch?" and I can say it's possible. Everything is possible. I don't ever actually absolutely 100% myself in a corner confirm, because we don't even know if they exist, right? So,
no, we know.
I've heard them make sounds that there's no way I could reproduce. I've heard them make sounds that there's no way I could reproduce. There's no, I could vocally, I just couldn't do what I've heard many times.
Right.
And there's other researchers who have said that they've heard when they're speaking, when they're close to them at night and they're speaking, that their language at times sounds almost Bushman like, with clicks and whistles in it. So
there's a category I have called percussive speech or percussive voice, and it's a manner of sounding like you're talking, but you're using huffs, grunts, pops, clicks, mouth pops, tongue clicks, all of that, for whatever form of communication. But it's one of those things that's across North America. It's not just a local phenomenon.
And David, I know Scott Nelson has said publicly that he believes that they communicate on their exhale like we do, and on their inhale at times. Have you encountered anything like that?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know how I would see that visually. I do believe Scott is correct, that they do make sounds on the inhale and the exhale. I think that there's also one other thing that's going on. You're familiar with the term air sacs?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard
such
that
as
in regards to
from
gorillas and
howler monkeys and other primates?
Right. It's a bladder that takes in air, and they're able to squeeze out air through their vocal cords, as well as bringing air, filling that air sac. I think that's why they can make such, at times, really long vocalizations. There was a vocalization that a gentleman sent that was 22 to 23 seconds long, and it got more powerful toward the end. Now, how it could make that kind of vocalization for that length of time without having some sort of way of interchanging air to go through their vocal cords, i.e. air sacs, I don't know. But have you heard people say that they have wheezy breath?
Yes.
What? Okay. You know what that is?
No.
That's their air sacs flapping.
Oh.
Their air sacs are vibrating, making that wheezy sound.
So it's not that they're asthmatic.
Correct. Yeah, there'd be too many
Yeah.
there's too many of them out there that have asthma. But yeah, whenever you hear that, people heard a wheezy type breath. That's something that's rattling inside their chest cavity, and it's not. I don't know. I kind of made a declarative there. That's my suspicion.
Now, do gorillas and orangutans and others that have air sacs sound that same wheezing breathing?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
We'd have to ask some people that take care of zookeepers or whatever that take care.
Yeah. So what clip are we on here now?
But I suspect yes.
Yeah. I think probably
we're on 6.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Another category that I follow is something I call singing, and it'll be intuitively obvious when you hear this cut why I like it. It is something that is recorded all across North America, not just this one clip. So this is just an example of any. Cut 6.
She's trying to get back to it, I think.
Yeah, I figure.
Huh. Is it longer than what we just heard?
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot longer.
Okay. Okay.
It just is not cooperating. And it's cutting out.
Yeah. No, I've heard Matthew Johnson talking about singing, and he has recordings. I don't know what to think of some of them, but he sent me recordings before that he said this is them singing. It's an interesting recording. It's all I can say. It definitely sounds like singing on the ones he sent.
Yeah,
me.
it doesn't sound like talking. There's a sustained note kind of situation. There's undulation up and down. So it just sounds like something using a singing modality rather than a talking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll jump to the next then.
This next one has a little bit of singing in it. There was a group of people in a rock pit, field researchers, a Sasquatch had been seen walking across the road by one of the researchers, and in the direction that this Sasquatch went was where this recording scenario happened. It sounded to me like there was two, and maybe one wasn't real happy that the other was vocalizing. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I would love to see what that looks like on a spectrogram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on. Unfortunately, it cut out a lot of it. I don't know if we can listen to that again.
Yeah.
There, like I said, there's a lot going on, and it chopped it up pretty bad.
Hello, David Becerra.
Yeah.
Ah, Dave's in. Nice.
Dave's in the house.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm enjoying this immensely, Dave. So both Daves, I'm enjoying this immensely. I love that near the end of that. I love the one going, whoo hoo.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right,
beautiful.
Patricia. Karaoke night in the forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So tell us what you can about that clip, David.
The one we just played.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it-
Well, as I said before, the real setup was a group of people were in a rock pit, and there was
that's right.
another investigator that was coming up the road, and he saw a Sasquatch walk across the road and into the forest. And in the direction that this went, I trained my bionic dish, and about 2 or 3 minutes later, it sounded like something was kind of reacting in a mournful way. And then something was telling, this is again my suspicion because of the tonality of it, was like, hush, shh, quiet.
Yeah.
And it kept doing the moaning thing, and it kept getting admonished. And then finally at the end, it kind of quieted down, and then it got one last ooh in that you caught, Jim, at the very end.
Well, and I know that Scott Carpenter at one point caught what we believe was two Sasquatch arguing with each other and about something. Who knows what they were arguing about.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. One of the, it's not in the clip that I sent you, but a witness I worked with, what I would say is an argument in that fashion. And it finally got to the point where the alpha went with the wood knock, and that was it.
And everything stopped.
There was no more discussion. Everything stopped.
It's like my dad used to say when we'd be arguing with him, he would say, "This discussion is closed." And whoever spoke after that was going to get it. So it was like everything stopped
Yeah.
at that point.
Oh, we're done now. I get
Yeah,
it.
that's exactly right. Okay, got it. We're done.
Oh, those is great.
But I enjoyed that last one. That was a great clip. And
Have
are
you
all
ever
these
gotten recordings?
This next one is in that.
Oh, good.
What's that?
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear this.
Oh, okay. The next one, clip 8, is in that same rock pit at different time, different people. It was cold camp. I placed my bionic dish at the top of this rock pit, away from where we were sitting, and we were talking. This other witness and myself, low murmur, and then I captured 2 voices that just came out of the darkness. Don't know what's going on, but you can definitely tell that they're voices.
Wow. That was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but is that audio cutting out for you too?
No, it just sounds like a loop to me.
Yeah, it is a loop. It is a loop, but it's 2 different voices saying 2 different things, and I couldn't tell you what the voices are saying.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same question as this.
Digger Dog. Yeah. Yes.
Are these are all
Yes.
from Washington? Okay.
Yes.
Good. That's good to know.
So those last ones that you heard them as they were happening.
Yeah.
through your
But I don't know where. I mean, we were in the middle of the rock pit. Don't know where they were coming from or emanating.
coming from. Did it creep you out?
But
Was that
we
kinda
were
creepy?
alone. It was just the two of us, I think.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
it creepy? Was it creepy hearing that?
I think so. Yeah, they don't sound normal. They sound.
Yeah.
Don't sound like anybody I know.
Yeah, for sure.
And with the parabolic, it's hard to tell how the distance. With your own ears, you have some idea of
yeah,
how far away that was.
You can't tell directionality when you're because the parabolic dish has just a single microphone. So, yeah. Okay. So the next one, move on to cut 8. This is something. This is a vocalization type that I can guarantee 99% of the Bigfoot population hasn't heard or doesn't know it exists. But I've had people send unknowingly. They send me an audio clip. Hey, listen to this. But then I catch this particular type of vocalization in the mix, and I just call it by what I hear. I hear the term "whoa hubbub," and it's done in a specific way that it's a visual marker. I can spot it before I hear it. It's the visual cue is so strong. So what I've got here in this clip is something that I recorded in 2007. And then in 2013, it was recorded 25 miles away and in a different resonance. In other words, it's 2 different individuals, but it's saying the same thing.
Hmm.
Now, what you'll hear is the one I recorded first, followed by the one that was recorded elsewhere second, and then it's looped 5 times. So
Okay.
you'll hear 10 vocalizations total.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's been recorded in North Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, all over,
Hmm.
all over.
You know, David, I've often wondered, and I don't mean this facetiously, I do mean it sincerely, but I've wondered whether Sasquatch in different parts of the country understand one another, or if they have different accents, like humans, someone from Vermont talking to someone from the bayou of Louisiana, they would hardly understand one another in English. And I wonder if
Sure.
Sasquatch has that same phenomenon.
Well, to that end, some of the vocalizations are similar to this, to the point where I think that you're making is that in some areas they could be saying the same thing, but in their way. Just like if somebody says a certain phrase from the South versus somebody from Washington, you compare the two, how they sound. You can tell that they're just saying the same thing, but they sound a little different.
Yeah.
So the same thing applies in this particular circumstance. That
That's amazing.
I've had variations of this particular vocalization that has been captured or recorded.
If we only knew what they were saying, right?
For another day.
For another day, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is fascinating. Okay, so we got a few more here, which let's see.
Yeah. Cut number 10 is in the rock pit again. Cold Camp had a recorder going on the top of the rock pit. It was pointed in one direction. This commotion happened at 180 degrees away from the bionic dish. So it didn't capture the full effect of what we heard. It's what I heard originally, what started out sounding like, somebody driving a car through the woods, just plowing up sticks and breaking and branches. And it was a huge commotion. But in the recording, you're going to hear wood knocking sounds, and you're going to hear yells, and you're going to hear squeaks. We saw after this commotion a raccoon scurry off down the road. I think something was trying to attack the raccoon. So that's why it's called an ambush. It's looped 3 times. So we can go ahead and play cut 10.
This brings a question to my mind for you, David. And I'm sure you've thought of this. So I've often thought, because I've heard many wood knocks, I've often thought Sasquatch cannot be walking around with clubs so they can hit stuff. So there must be a way they can do this vocally that sounds to us like a wood knock. Yeah, I've done that too. And I've done it with my wife in the woods, and she thought it was a wood knock when I did it. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Tongue clicks, mouth pops, all part of their repertoire. The last cut that we'll play will be combining those kinds of sounds. They, for some reason or another, have incorporated it into their speech, as other ancient tribes have done in the past. So yeah, it is part of their verbal repertoire. So yeah, they can make a really loud popping sound. And I don't think it always is sometimes it is, but it is not always wood on wood.
Right. Okay.
So we want to go to cut 11?
Yeah.
Okay. I was at a lake in eastern Washington where quite a bit of activity has taken place, and my car was parked about 15 feet away from my tent. You're going to hear something approach my car and attempt to unlatch the door. It was locked, so it makes a quick unlatching sound. It was unsuccessful. It takes 2 steps over to my tent, grabs the tent fly, and starts snuffling and making god-awful noises, and then walks away. What the squeaking sound that you hear is a Coleman lantern that was not lighted. It was out for the evening, but it was on one of those large nails, and so you're going to hear the Coleman lantern squeak. So just so you know what that is.
Okay. Can't wait for this one.
Yeah, this is a god-awful sound. It happened about 2 feet away from my head. So this was a fun experience.
Wow.
So you're sure you're sure that was the lantern, not him doing a whistle as part of his speech?
No, I'm not. Well, it doesn't have. I'm pretty sure I would have picked up on a whistle signature, but you could be right. I'm not sure positive on that. But that was my suspicion, because I know a Coleman lantern was there, and it would have been on his way out, like he brushed against it with the shoulder or something.
That's what
of all the ones you've played, that one would have probably caused me to soil myself in my tent. So,
yeah, as David Letterman would say, "Good night, everybody."
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
I bet that sounds amazing with headphones, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It does.
It's deep. It's a deep guttural voice.
Something's going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like they're speaking. As someone made a comment here, definitely sounds like speech. Have you ever heard the recording? There's one from that apparently came from Russia, where a researcher put food out and had a recorder under the seat where the food was placed, and you have the Sasquatch sitting there going, you know, and he's eating, but he's obviously talking.
That was sent to Ivan Burtsev, I believe. Igor Burtsev.
Igor.
And it was right. It was one of, I'm not sure, it was Tajikistan or some one of those places like that. Yeah, I've got that whole recording. It's about 5 minutes long, and I broke it down to syllable sets. So it's really controversial. If you mention it, it's not very well received in the Bigfoot community, but it does have my interest after looking at it visually.
Well, and it's so deep and guttural. I don't know how you would fake that, to be honest.
Yeah, and there's several things in there that are uttered that have been recorded in other places, and I don't think people picked up on that. But it has my interest. It's a fun one, but like I said, it's not very well received, so it doesn't get a lot of airplay or.
And there's a lot of things like that in the Bigfoot world that are not well
and that's
received.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Doesn't bother me.
Okay.
So the cut number 12 is what I call the percussive speech or percussive voice, one or the other, you choose. But when I first heard this, I thought I was hearing drumming. Now, to set up the stage, a witness had just seen a Sasquatch walk between two trees, and this was recorded about 30 seconds later in the same vicinity as the Sasquatch that was seen walking between two trees. So we're fairly certain that a Sasquatch was in the area. Whether it makes these sounds is up for debate, I suppose, but it sure seems to be compatible with what other people have sent me when they say, can you listen to this? There's a lot of clicking sounds going on. And again, like you said, Jim, is it possible they're using their mouth and their tongue? And that's exactly what's going on. And I didn't discover it until about 3 years after I'd recorded it. Like I said, I thought it was drumming. But when I looked at it visually, I could see the visual cues that there was huffs and grunts and puffs and other things that were going on that led me to understand that this was done vocally, not by hitting or drumming sticks on a log. So it is a 5-time loop. So you'll hear it 5 times. I do have a witness that contacted me after hearing it on a podcast like this and saying that they were within 25 feet of a Sasquatch and they heard it make this exact sound.
And percussion, if humans can do it in their speech, there's many Southern African languages that use clicks, pops. If humans can do it, effectively, surely Sasquatch can do the same and may probably do.
Yeah. Well, something's making this particular sound.
Right. Right. Hmm.
Hmm.
These are fascinating. I've
Yeah.
got one for you to listen to see what you think that I just
Okay.
uploaded. Now this one, I think I've played it before on the show, but this one was recorded in my friend Jill's property in Guffey, Colorado. There are definitely coyotes in the background, but as you and Sibylla know as well as I do, Sasquatch provokes coyotes. They love to respond to a Sasquatch doing a vocalization. So
Right.
I think this is not all coyotes, but I'll have Stephanie play it and see what you think.
Well, I can tell you this, that quite often you will hear a suspicious vocalizer in the midst of a coyote chorus.
Agreed.
And that's why I like the spectrographic analysis tool, because you can see it. You can see exactly where that vocalization is, and it doesn't match the coyote vocalizations.
Yeah.
So it
Awesome.
happens in a different resonance, and that's what I'm sure where I'm going to hear here in this particular cut.
So see what you think of this. So this was let me just explain. This was going on, I think it was 8:30 at night. The hey at the end was John, who got this was so loud that it filled the air around the house. So John finally said, "Hey," and the predominant voice stopped and the coyotes kept going.
Okay, yeah. There is something strange about that. I default to looking at things before I make any kind of comment, because a skeptic would say that that's all coyote, that coyotes can make that raspy particular sound.
Right.
And I'm not going to disagree with him that they can't, but what may separate it is what you said your witness told you is that I felt this sound, that it was not just an audio scenario. This was something that was much louder. So
correct.
That then starts to separate.
Yeah. Well, this has been a trip down education lane for me, because some of these sounds I've never heard. I think I would like to hear some of these. I'm not so sure about others, but when I'm out in the field, I think some of them would give me pause.
Well, when I get the opportunity to come on shows like yours, Jim, Sibylla, I appreciate you giving me kind of lateral latitude to pick out different things. I can play the same old thing. I played some long vocalizations, what people like to hear, but there's also other sounds out there that I think are important, and that if people
100%.
become aware of them, they might start to hear them.
100%. And that's what I've loved about tonight, is that you've brought in so many different kinds of sounds that every time you play one, I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to have this time? So,
Audio asked if that's a back of a Sasquatch that I have on my wall in one of the pictures. Jim, you asked that.
I did
before.
I did.
It is pretty much considered a fake, but I just like it. I think it's interesting. So, and it's on my wall. It's not for everybody's wall. So
sure. Whether it's real or not, if it's interesting, it's your wall. You can put it up there.
Yeah, exactly.
David, is there a place where people can contact you? Do you have a
Great question.
website or?
The easiest way is just go through olympicproject.com. They have a service that you just say you want to, or you email to olympicproject.com, and that email will get to me. So,
Because I think people have a lot of questions about what
Sure.
equipment they might want to buy, and if they have access to you, that would be awesome.
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Olympicproject.com, and there's a contact form in there.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I think these vocals as data is just so important, and it doesn't get rated high enough. Everybody's out there trying to get footprints and all that. I really think having vocalizations that is not from a known species and that can be proven, well, then what else can it be?
Right.
Sure. 100% agree with
And
you,
it's easy,
Sibylla.
and it's not that hard to get. It's, I mean, of course you have to be out there and you have to do all the homework, but I think there's so much value in capturing vocalizations.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, if you're trying to see one, that's going to be extremely hard, but your chances of hearing one go up greatly because of coverage.
Yes.
You cover so much, you cover miles with a recorder.
Absolutely.
Where you're only covering 50, 100 feet with, confirming good visuals. So
Right.
that
I have-
the chances of go ahead.
I have one more question that I have to ask while you're on the show. And
Okay.
have you encountered, because I've encountered this and I'm thinking you probably have, where you have a group of people in the woods and there's a vocalization of some kind or a sound of some kind, and some of the people, they're all together, everyone's together. Some of them hear it and some of them hear nothing. Have you experienced that?
Sure. Yeah. It's an attention thing. It's our eyes are receptors, but our mind sees. Our ears pick up the sound, but our mind tells us what to hear. So I found that when I was recording, I would review things and say, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. How come I didn't hear that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would catch between 50 and 60%, but there was 50 and 40% of the time that I didn't hear it. And I don't know why I didn't hear it. It was loud enough. I should have, but it's back to that. Your mind was thinking about something else when that happened.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm talking even people walking.
I'm not very good at walking and
people walking together, like 4 people in a line, and a sound off to one side is so loud it causes one person to jump on top of the other person in abject terror, and the 2 people walking next to them heard nothing. Zero.
Wow.
And
Right.
so that's I just can't explain that at all.
Well, it's the same way with infrasound too. Like one person would get zapped and the person walking right next to him feels absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that baffles me. I don't get that because infrasound is a sound wave and it's not discriminate. So why it affects certain people and doesn't affect other people, I couldn't tell you. There has to be something else physiologically that's happening that make the person that's feeling the effects susceptible while the others around them don't have that scenario happening. I've heard that there may be an imbalance in like a dopamine thing in your system where it makes you more susceptible to infrasound than others. That's a possible explanation, but I'm sure there's a more scientific reason. But it does, it does baffle me where, like you said, a couple of researchers are out and one gets hit with infrasound and the others don't.
Yeah.
That actually happened to me. You know Cindy Dosen?
I sure do.
Yeah, she was. You can ask her about this scenario. I was there with her when she was getting zapped, and I felt no effects, but she was having a real rough time.
Yeah.
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 It's
No,
crazy.
we've probably all had that experience with other people that we were out with. But well, David, thank you so much for coming tonight and giving us so much of your time. I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, it was fun.
You'll have to come back and bring some more.
Thanks for having me on the show.
I think you would
okay. You got it.
You would be a favorite to come back for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks. You too. Take
Thank
care.
you,
Have a great
baby.
evening. Well,
Yeah,
that was a great show, Sibylla. I enjoyed that.
I want some more audio.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. That was fascinating, and I love the diversity of sounds that he brought in. I mean, it wasn't just one yell after yell after yell after yell. It was all kinds of things. So
yeah, or wood knocks. We've all heard wood knocks and stuff.
Sure we have. Sure we have.
That's awesome.
So I'm so glad you put me in touch with David as a sound expert, because I really believe he is. And I think tonight proved that, for one. So
yeah.
Just a quick comment to our chat and to all those listening. Next Tuesday we have a normal broadcast. The following Tuesday is election night. I would love to know y'all's opinion of whether if we did a podcast, would you be listening at all, or are you going to be focused on the election? So just send me your thoughts through the contact form on sasquatchoutpost.com, and just let me know. I have no horse in this race, so to speak. I'm happy to do the recording, to do a broadcast or not, but I don't want to have a guest on and go through, the work of having them, and then no one's tuning in. So, so yeah, we could use the distraction. I agree. I think we could all use that distraction. So, but yeah, okay. Well, just let us know your thoughts, and but thank you all for tuning in and for being such a great group and your great questions. I'm glad we could get to as many of them as we did tonight. So
thank you guys.
And thank you again, Sibylla, for being with me. And it's always a delight to have you.
Oh, thank you, Jim. And thank you guys, you outposters. We love you.
Absolutely. We do. And we will be on next Tuesday. And until then, keep on squatching.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.